Dogs and cats and people, we require nutrients, not ingredients. The ingredients that we're feeding, if it's a soy protein or a cornstarch, they're there to provide nutrients such as amino acids or glucose.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Pet Food Science Podcast, where we seek to discuss current research and information and how it may apply to innovation in the pet food industry. I'm your host, Julia Pizzali, and today is my pleasure to have in our podcast Dr. Gary Davenport to discuss with us the perceptions of today's pet parents toward ingredients such as soy, corn, and wheat. And today in this conversation, we're going to be focusing more on soy. So, welcome to our podcast, Gary.
Thank you. Glad to join you and share what we've learned about these ingredients that have historically been used, but have also fallen out of favor, in the past number of years. So glad to be a part of this discussion.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear insights and how it changed over the years because, as you said, there are a lot of things going on in the industry, and for sure is a very dynamic environment. But I think before we talk about soy, I would love to hear about your background. I'm sure many of our listeners, they know you, they know your background, but for those who don't, could you tell a little bit about your background and how you end up in your current position today?
Sure. I am of a certain vintage that I've been around the industry for a while now, but really started my career, with degrees in animal nutrition from the University of Kentucky, and I was a triple offender with all three degrees from there. But in animal nutrition and biochemistry, from there I took my first position as a faculty member at Auburn University, where I had a research and teaching appointment, and it was there that did my first. Canine nutrition research through funding from the IMES company as well as Ralston Purina or Nestle Purina as they're known now. So that really put me on the track for, this career in pet nutrition. And it was in 1997 that I left academia and went to the IMES company, where I was a research nutritionist in the group that we called strategic research. It was literally innovation pipeline, looking at trying to understand the biology of dogs and cats and how we could apply nutritional principles to meet that biology. And so that provided a lot of opportunities to do research in various areas such as protein metabolism, skin and coat, performance, hairballs, longevity. So a whole host of different research opportunities. But also with my background in education, I did a lot of training and customers. Education, from a product support perspective. Well, then in 2015, I left the IMES company, which at that point was owned by Mars, and ADM had a position that was available, and I applied for and was successful in getting the position. And so now I'm a companion animal technical manager, or really it's a pet technical sales manager, where my role is to support our account managers or sales team calling on customers as it pertains to ingredients they may need, in their formulas, recommendations, and or they may need a different processing parameter in what ingredients would we recommend for them, as well as some custom formulations that I do for smaller pet food companies that don't have a nutritionist on staff, or they don't want to hire a consultant, but because they are customers of ours, we do provide that service to them. So it's a wide variety of roles that I play now, and I'm in my ninth year with ADM, and I just got to say I love it because I'm still highly focused on maintaining and supporting and enhancing the health and well-beings of dogs and cats. And so now I'm doing that through ingredient recommendations to various companies throughout North America, but even globally. So it's very rewarding, position to be in, and just love what I do. So and then sharing these findings and stuff with you and others listening to the podcast. It's truly what we want to do at ADM, is to share the learnings with the industry so that all of us can be better equipped to meet those nutritional needs of dogs and cats.
Yeah, I think that's very important, and I appreciate when companies do that because it's how we move forward as an industry as a whole, and everyone benefits. And having your background with education and helping translate that science to consumers also has a huge impact because they are the ones making the decisions. So it's
Right.
nutrition doesn't come along to make a product successful. There are
Oh,
many
that's for sure.
players.
As a global leader in pet nutrition, ADM is always looking at what's next, taking a forward-looking view of the industry landscape and a comprehensive approach to developing innovative, science-backed foods, treats, and supplements so owners can take a proactive approach to their pet's wellness.
So to start off talking about, I'm going to focus more on soy in this conversation. And even before we talk about consumer perception, I think it's important for us to understand, as from the eyes of a nutritionist, how these products they behave, or can we include them in the diet of dogs and cats? Are they going to be easy to process? The animals like it, they're going to digest it well. How it's going to affect metabolism? So, if your experience in the industry and also your own knowledge on science that you have done in the past, do you mind starting talking with us? What are some of the common soy products that have been traditionally used in the pet food industry, and what are their changes maybe in nutritional composition if you go from whole soy to some co-products, how they differ nutritionally?
Yeah, I'm glad to answer that. And I guess I would start, and I'm going to go way back, and think about when, extrusion was first brought to the industry. And, we were finally making, brown round kibbles, through an extruded process. And a lot of that was based upon soy and corn and wheat, very typical livestock kind of ingredients that were used. And so for many years, we always had products, pet foods that were soy based. Now, typically that was soybean meal that was used. And so, we have seen, historically the use of corn, wheat, and soy. But I know we're focused more on soy. Well, that was fine up until really the 80s and then even into the 90s, and more specifically in the 90s when, there was this entire marketing campaign around for a brand trying to differentiate themselves from everyone else, where they started demonizing, if you will, animal byproduct meals, corn, wheat, and soy. And so that's what the marketing campaign was. Look at our products. We do not have byproduct meals, corn, wheat, or soy. And it was an extremely effective marketing campaign because it literally changed our industry. And so that, coupled with the fact we then had more meat-based fresh meat formulas that were being used and in the industry. And so you had a couple of different scenarios that developed that really caused soy and corn and wheat to fall out of favor for many pet owners, thus the pet food manufacturers who are going to be making the products that the owners are going to buy or the pet parents are going to buy. And so that's what has happened. Now, fast forward to today, what we're seeing, and if you go, I'm going to step back for a moment, and you think about individual people, the pet owners, and what types of diets we are trying to consume, and what ADM has marketing resources or capabilities available to us where we can do surveys, in-home online surveys of people across the globe, if you will. And in North America, they've asked people, what type of diets are they desiring for themselves. And what we're seeing in a survey that was conducted in 2018, 50% of the individuals indicated they were intentionally trying to add more plant-based ingredients into their or foods into their diet. And so If that's half the, and when asked why, and they were doing that for health reasons. So that whole trend, if you will, has been is called flexitarianism, where individuals are not avoiding meat in their diets. They're just trying to add more plant-based ingredients. So I say all that to say and with pet humanization and that trend, pet owners are now wanting to feed their pets more foods that are more like what they feed. And so with that, now soy is back on the table, if you will, as as an ingredient that they would be looking for. And so when they're looking for products or foods that may have soy in it, it could be soybean meal, it could be soy flakes, soy flour, soy protein concentrate, soy protein isolate. A textured vegetable protein is typically textured soy. And so there's a lot of different soy ingredients that are being used in the pet industry today. So I'll pause there because that was a whole lot of information to get us set to this point. And I know I still haven't answered your question around the nutritional composition, but I thought I would stop there in case there was any question you would have before I keep going.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and also fits on the sustainability portion of the talk that a lot is happening a lot in the human food industry. People are more aware of it and using soybean meal and other plant-based ingredients they add on that. And even when I go to the supermarket, there are so many soy-based products, soy-based meats, soy dairy products, so dairy. But you can see there, so it makes a lot of sense that people want to see similar in the pet food as they see in the human food, and would hopefully want to try the bad connotation. So for the soy products that you see or we used to see more in the pet food industry, we still have a lot, but which ones are more commonly used, maybe for a protein, as a protein source, or maybe as a fiber source as well?
Generally speaking, the soy proteins are going to be used for protein, to provide amino acids. One of the things I like to always remind anyone is that dogs and cats and people, we require nutrients, not ingredients. The ingredients that we're feeding, if it's a soy protein or a cornstarch, they're there to provide nutrients such as amino acids or glucose. But we always get so caught up in the ingredients themselves. So with soy, we can look at new soybean meal, roughly 44, 48% protein, very high quality protein source in terms of its amino acid composition. Other than the sulfur amino acids, we know that it's low in his, any legume based ingredient is going to be lower in sulfur amino acids like methionine, but in general, it has a well balanced amino acid profile. Historically, soybean meal was used because that's what was used in the livestock industry. But we do know if you get levels in a diet that are too high, you bring in a number of what I'll call anti-nutritional factors like the oligosaccharides that could lead to digestive upsets, flatulence, things like that. So there has always been a a limit, if you will, on the amount of a soybean meal that could be used. But I know some of the research I did previously with the IMS company, we, had looked at diets. I forget the specific inclusion level, but up to 15% in an extruded dog diet, and those dogs did fine. Now that was in a research setting and not across many, many dogs in home situations. But again, I generally have no concerns recommending, up to 15% soybean meal in an extruded dog formula. So that's one example. Then you can go and that's for extruded foods. Now, if you start
Mhm.
looking at wet foods, semi-moist, now we need that protein to not only supply amino acids, but we also need some functionality in terms of forming that final product, that you want, whether it's a chunk, whether it's a wet pate or, or whatever the end form may be. And so there you start looking at textured vegetable proteins that may look like a piece of meat. And we have texturized vegetable proteins in our portfolio that if you looked at it and with some color and some flavor, you would think it was a meat chunk, and or
Mhm.
chicken chunk, whatever piece of meat you would like. That's what it looks like. It smells like. We can even make it flavored to taste that way as well with what we have within our portfolio. So that would be one example. The TVPs. We have soy protein concentrates that are highly um, used in wet foods again because of the functionality they bring in producing loaves and all, and then again within our portfolio, because we support the human food industry. We have many different types of soy protein concentrates, even soy protein isolates that have very different functionality. And so depending upon what that ultimate need is, we can make a recommendation on the specific product that needs to be used in your process to get that final form. And then the last one, as I briefly mentioned, was, our soy protein isolates, which are very high level protein, 80% or so, that again work extremely well in those unique basically wet products for forming and functionality.
Yes, and those protein concentrates they have very low or almost minimal oligosaccharides from
Absolutely,
formulated.
yes. Yep.
So those are going to be you don't have to have any concerns about the oligosaccharides part. And
Thank you. Yes, yes.
and for the soybean meal, I agree with you. I've seen studies here at K State and published ones that even 20% they didn't see any bad or effects on fecal score. May increase a little bit of the fecal moisture, but not out of what a pet parent would want to. Um, so maybe if you're formulating a pet food and you have, let's say, poultry meal as your animal uh, predominant animal protein source, if you replace half of it with soybean meal, there'll probably be advantage, right? If you think about
No, absolutely.
many aspects, if you want to comment on that.
I mean, again, we're always, I mean, sometimes we get so focused on single protein sources. And I think that that's incorrect from a nutritional perspective. Even ourselves, we don't eat the same food. Most of us don't eat the same food every day, day in, day out. So we shouldn't be feeding our dogs and cats the same way. So being able to provide multiple ingredients, protein, we'll say specifically, in a food is going to be best for them because you get complementary nutritional benefits from the individual components. So, yes, yeah, it would be very um, appropriate to remove a portion of your animal based protein like a chicken meal or a poultry meal and replacing that with soy, a soybean meal, and it's going to perform well. It's going to provide meet the nutritional needs of that dog or cat without any concerns or issues. So again, I have never been afraid to recommend, a soybean meal or any other soy protein, or for a customer, unless they have a brand position of no corn, wheat, soy. Then it's like, well, you put yourself in a box and now you've really limited what's available. But we'll continue to talk. But unless they have no issues with a soy containing product in their portfolio, I'm going to recommend it.
Yeah, and the complementary part is very important. And as you said, they need nutrients, not ingredients, and any kind of animal. And one is lower in sulfur amino acids, another one's going to be higher. And having different sources, you probably increase protein quality and the
Absolutely.
provision of those amino acids to meet the animal requirements. So I think that's also very important. As you said, we focus so much in one protein, but priorities is so important. And I think that's something that this perception have to change, I think, in the consumers as well, because you think complete and balance, but it doesn't mean they will not benefit if you rotate their diet. So
Yeah, I'll be honest, I was guilty of, okay, my dogs are going to get this food every day, for their entire life. But I'm not sure that was in their best interest long term. It's like I probably should have been rotating on a somewhat some basis, timing basis, but at the same time, I had a product that I really believed in, and I knew that it
mhm.
was providing excellent nutrition for my dogs that I could keep them on that and it would meet their needs. But I could also see where there could be value in rotating as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's right and wrong. It's just different perceptions,
Right.
and sometimes your dog really like that diet and is performing really well on that. So there's no reasons to change it if it's well balanced.
A good subject. I don't know if you all have done it on the podcast yet, but just talking about different consumer targets, i.e., different pet owners and what they want to be feeding their pet. For me, I'm on the science side that I
Yeah.
want all nutrition versus I don't care if it's brown and round and doesn't have colors or shapes or whatever, but some other pet parents want it to be fun and exciting and all that. So I think that's also something that as nutritionists, as formulators, sometimes we do have to account for when working with a brand is understanding who their consumer target is, for their particular products, because it does factor into what will work in their, product portfolio, what ingredients will work and what ones will not work in their portfolio.
Yeah, and with the diversity that we have on pet parents today, when they're looking for, if you don't provide what they want, someone else will. So
Right.
better be you providing a good nutrition for them. So and adapting all of that.
Yep.
So I'm gonna go back a little bit on the soybean meal, and we talk a little bit about oligosaccharides and how that brought kind of a bad connotation for soybean meal as well. But we know, as you said, 15%, you're not gonna see any negative effects on fecal quality or bloating, gas production. Um, how about some other anti-nutritional factors? Should be something that the pet food industry should be concerned about, such as trypsin inhibitor, fattic acid, urease.
In general, I have not been overly concerned with that, those types of anti-nutritionals, because of the processing that takes place of our foods. That with the heat, if it's an extruded product, the heat and steam itself generally is going to,
Yeah.
you know, destroy the phytase, which is a good thing. But at the same time, I also know pet food manufacturers who want to put enzymes in their foods, and it's like, well, it's going to become a very expensive protein source for you if you put it through the extruder. And so, I, again, with the processing that takes place, I have no concerns, with any of those anti-nutritional factors that typically are associated with the livestock industry, where maybe they're only pelleting the food, and so there's not enough heat and steam for sure that's going to degrade those components that may be in that soybean meal. And the oligosaccharides, I again, they're water soluble. So with the water and steam that's provided during extrusion and all, how much of them truly do remain that are going to be a problem. I do know that within ADM in our human food portfolio, we have what we call pre-cooked or pre-gelatinized pulses and legumes, so chickpeas, black beans, red beans, and all. And they are being used in snack foods and other foods at high levels in those products because they were pre-cooked and it removed all the oligosaccharides. So again, I think with just some general cooking, if you will, and exposure to heat and steam, even the oligosaccharides will not be problematic.
Yeah, and I also think there's a room to explore maybe potential benefits of having oligosaccharides.
Sure.
Why not? In small doses, they may have a prebiotic-like effect.
Yes.
So maybe ideal the dosage is what makes something better. Good. So there's a balance there that may bring more even value to soy products and soybean meal particularly.
Agreed.
Just one comment. I think I read some time ago. I think there was a paper from Illinois, 2001, that evaluated ileal digestibility in dogs of soybean products, and they were all very high, even sometimes overperforming the poultry meal. So just to highlight the good protein quality, and this data is all available.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So moving away from protein, we talk a little bit about soybean meal, good protein source, soy protein concentrate, isolate, even more higher protein quantity, maybe different markets as well. How about some fiber sources that we can get from whole soybeans? Is there any other co-product that you can think about?
Yeah, soy hulls, immediately come to mind, and again, we have done the research in collaboration with Dr. Maria Godoy and her graduate student Katie Detweiler, looking at soybean hulls, as a fiber source for dogs and cats, and even how it compares, to other species, and that was another student who worked on that aspect of it. But what we learned in that research that Katie conducted is that well, let me back up. So we compared soybean hulls, beet pulp, and cellulose in dog diets and cat diets at equal fiber composition. So, and with the soy hulls, we were in the 11 to 13% of the formula was a soy hulls. And so, our hypothesis going in was that when we looked at digestibility and fecal components, like short chain fatty acids, we were expecting the soy hulls to fall intermediate to cellulose, which is indigestible, and beet pulp, which is the gold standard, if you will, of being a moderately fermentable fiber that's widely used in the industry. Well, when it was all said and done, the dogs and cats both responded to the soy hulls the same as those that responded to the beet pulp. And it's like, whoa, surprise to us, but we were happy for that because ADM has a lot of soy hulls that we generate because we buy a lot of soybeans, crush those soybeans for the oil and then the proteins and all that we've already talked about. And so we have a lot of that, what we're calling a co-product, the hulls, that represent, apparently based upon this research, a a fiber source that is of the same quality as our beet pulp, the gold standard, in the industry. And the nice thing about soy hulls is they're relatively cheap, from a pricing perspective. But many people always said, "Oh, this just filler. It's just, they're a nerd. It's just like the cellulose. It wasn't being digested." Well, that's not the case. Even with cellulose, you get some benefit because of rate
Mhm.
of passage, some high gut fermentation, but the soy hulls provided benefits above and beyond because of the soluble fiber fractions as well as the insoluble components. So again, they performed as well as the beet pulp. And so if a customer, a manufacturer is open to an alternative fiber source, then you should be looking at beet pulp, soy hulls as a replacement for beet pulp.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. I had the same idea when I started talking. They're going to be between cellulose and beet pulp, but very good findings and interesting that you can replace beet pulp and have the same results, the same effects that we want to see on gut health.
Yeah,
Do you remember the inclusion rate of soybean hulls in that study?
I'm pretty sure that was in the 12, 13, 14% range. Again, Katie has published those papers, so they're in the Journal of Animal Science. I forget what year, but it's Detweiler. If you could search my name, last name, or Maria Godoy's, you would be able to find those. But they are public. It is published research.
Yeah, no, good to know. I'll take a look for sure of this podcast. Um, so now that we got a perspective of benefits of soy products in pet foods, I want to understand more about. You talk a little bit at the beginning, but why they have been demonized, and you gave us some thoughts. But why do you think now there's an opportunity for them to rise again? And sometimes we think about alternative protein sources, but there's some traditional ones that they can be utilized and they're going to be sustainable as well and maybe not as expensive as some of those more popular alternative protein sources.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that ADM did some consumer research. So do you mind sharing a little bit about what you learned in that research?
As a lead in to describing that consumer research, I was came to ADM and learned the portfolio and saw all of the different protein ingredients that we have that are derived from soy, from corn, from wheat, all a number of different plant-based ingredients, and how widely they're used in the human food industry. And so it's like, and then knowing that with some of the market research they did, that people were intentionally looking for soy in their own diet, as a food for their own diet. And so it's like it's not adding up, because you can continue to hear in our industry, no corn, no wheat, no soy. But yet on the human food side, have always used soy and are looking for soy and are not afraid of soy. So that's what led us to do this consumer research. And so again, ADM has this capability called outside voice that allowed us to connect with over 4,000 pet owners across the US. And these were both dog and cat owners in all geographical regions, both men and women. And we asked the question, when you are searching for a food or a treat for your dog or cat, um, are you intentionally seeking soy, deliberately avoiding soy, or basically paying no attention? And the results came back that 20% of the pet owners of those 44,000 that were represented there said 20% said they were avoiding it. All right. Roughly, and don't hold me to these numbers, but 15% said that they were intentionally seeking it. And then the remainder said, I think it was 65%, didn't make a difference to them. So, so it was one of those, it's like, wait a minute. So if you take the 65 that it didn't matter and the 15 that were intentionally looking for it, that means 80% of those 4,000 pet owners were open to soy in their pets' food. And it's like, okay, that's and coupled with the 15% that were specifically looking for it. So that's really changing the narrative, for the industry, in my opinion. Now, yes, there's still 20% that are not gonna want soy for their pet. And okay, that's fine. But that 20% does not represent the majority, if you will, of pet owners in the US. And so we also asked, why would you want soy? Why are you looking for soy? Well, why would soy be important? And, it was the nutritional aspects of it. They know it's healthy. They know it's highly digestible. It has a lot of nutrients that their dog or cat requires. And they want it because they have it in their own diet. So, again, it just supported what we were seeing on the human food side, that more and more people are trying to incorporate these plant-based proteins, soy specifically, into their own diet, for the nutritional benefits that it provides.
So the major driver that was those consumers are seeking soils for the nutritional benefits. They were aware of it.
Yep. And then some, also taste, they assumed, again, trying to anthropomorphize to their own animal, that it's going to taste good to me, so it's going to taste good to them, but again, it was not a barrier for the
Yeah.
taste of a soy product for themselves was not a barrier, so they thought it would be appropriate for their pet.
Yeah, and out of those 20% that you said they do not want, I think they're the avoiders. They're always going to be there, either for soy, for meals, for
Yep.
anything. They're going to be
Anything.
people that are going
Right.
against it. Um, did you see a higher? I don't know if you split between diet categories. The consumers that go super premium
Great question. Yes.
change between the population.
In general, more of the pet parents who identified themselves as purchasers of super premium foods, they tended to be, that's where the more of the avoiders fell. But at the same time, that same super premium purchaser had the highest percentage of those seeking soy. So it was like the most diverse group, if you will, but they were very strong in their opinions, and so again, when you get down into the value and the mid tier and even the premium products, I don't think those pet parents that are purchasing products really care that much. I think especially on the value side, they're going for price and
Mhm.
not necessarily looking at the ingredient deck and what may be in that food. So it's not as relevant, if you will, for them. But definitely the super premiums were very split and opinionated about
Yeah. Yeah,
soy for their pet.
I was going to say they have more strong opinions for sure,
Yes,
regardless of the topic. I think if you ask any other question, you're going to see a different percentage there regarding what they like or not.
exactly.
One other question that I was interested in asking about the survey. Do you see any changes geographic location, or do you know if that has an impact? Or
There was the Midwest versus the South, the Northeast, and the West. They were slightly different in terms of their acceptance and all. And I think a lot of that may be, you get more of the health. And so soy, if I'm remembering it correctly, soy seeking didn't raise as high in
Mhm.
for owners in the Midwest versus especially those on the East and West Coast. Because I think generally they're more, I hate to say this, and I'm not categorizing everyone I say this, but health conscious, individuals,
Yeah,
maybe more living on the coast and all that, and would be more open to soy, and but at the same time, we also looked at age demographics, and so the older pet parents tended to be a greater percentage of those will say tended to avoid the soy versus the younger individuals, and these would have been 18 and years of age and above. They were more of open and or seeking soy. And so I think it goes back to some of that early, marketing that took place in the 90s, that those of us in my age group and higher remember, and so that this data kind of played out and and said that. But the younger, you know, pet owners definitely are open to soy for their pets.
yeah, no, that's good to hear. And when Dr. Adolfo was here, that she was talking about some consumer uh, perception about insect meal. She mentioned that they evaluated how educating the consumer before and after changed their
Mhm.
perception. So even for soy, there is, I think, a huge opportunity to provide this education part. And soy, they relate more; they know what it is. Being
Right.
the insects a little more challenging because they don't know, but soy they see on the human food supermarket. It's there, so it's something that they can relate more.
Well, I will tell you that, with this data, this consumer data that we've generated, and we basically, real quick, we've seen the same thing for almost identical results for corn and wheat. Different pet owners, but basically the 20% avoid, 80% are open to it or seeking it. And so it's like, okay, there's that 20%. So with this information, we share it with our customers who, you know, have a position of no corn, wheat, or soy, and it's like they recognize it, they appreciate it, but they know their consumer target, their customer target, and so
Yeah.
it's like we're not touching that, and I can appreciate that because that's what their brands have been built on. But we also have super premium customers who are saying, "Hey, let's talk about soy." And putting some soy, maybe a textured protein or a soy protein concentrate or something like that, into their formulas and into these super premium formulas. So we are starting to see that shift, and I think with time, it'll. I think you'll see more and more soy, and the corn and wheat as well, and more of the even super premium products, because it's never gone away from the value and really mid-tier brands. They've continued to use it, and some premium brands continue to use soybean meal as well. But I think
Mhm.
now we're going to start seeing more of the soy ingredients in the super premium brands.
Yeah. I think about price, one comment about it. People have the perception cheaper is bad, more expensive is ideal. But that's not true. And that's not because there's more soybean meal in those diet that are not super premium that is a bad ingredient. And as you said, they're providing, they know nutrients, not ingredients, and soybean meal is a very good source of amino acids and
Oh yeah, I literally just had this conversation with my family last night, related to someone else, but it was just because a food is expensive doesn't mean it's nutritionally
yeah.
the best for your pet, So you can easily provide a nutritionally complete and balanced food for a dog or a cat with these types of lower priced ingredients, and many times it's all the bells and whistles, that also are being added, or the marketing, or some other aspect that's driving that perception of a more premium nutritional product, which may not necessarily be the case.
But as you said before, there's space for everyone, different markets.
Right.
If you're looking for that, just know who we are targeting and invest on that, and know there is opportunities for soy in all that space, all the spaces that can be a good fit.
I mean, when I have individuals ask me, for recommendations for their own pet, and if they fall into that category, I'm going to ask a lot of questions about their pet and how it's performing and all that. But, at the same time, unless they're doing something that is truly harmful to their pet, I'm not going to tell them don't do that. But
Yeah,
I will not may, I will give them other options if they ever want to consider something else that is still going to provide excellent nutrition for their dog or cat. But yeah, I mean, to each his own. But just make sure it's meeting the needs of the dog or cat.
yeah, the individual itself.
Hmm.
ProAmpac, your companion in pet packaging. Visit pets.proampac.com to explore our innovative sustainable solutions, such as our QuadFlex recyclable flat bottom bags, ProDura polywoven bags, ProEvo recyclable paper bags with grease resistance, and our proactive recyclable film and pouches that run at optimum speeds on your filling equipment. Elevate your wet food, treats, and kibble brand by utilizing packaging that safeguards and preserves product freshness. Trust ProAmpac for packaging that cares for your pets and the planet. pets.proampac.com.
Just to finish our soy conversation, we're gonna jump into some other questions not related to soy, but do you mind kind of summarizing a little bit of, I don't know, 30 minutes elevated speech about soy, and what did you learn in this consumer research, and maybe the benefits of soy in pet diets?
All the research we've done, all the knowledge that we've had, confirmed the nutritional benefits that soy provides to a dog or cat from an amino acid perspective, if it was the soy hulls from a fiber perspective. So soy is not an ingredient that needs to be avoided. In fact, I would say it should be embraced because of the nutrition that it provides, the functionality it can provide. In certain product forms. So again, it just confirmed what I already knew and believed. And now there's some satisfaction. No, there's a lot of satisfaction in seeing that 80% of today's pet owners are open to it, that we shouldn't be running from it. If anything, we need to be embracing it. Sometimes it was soy hulls. I can tell you, for sure, it's still an uphill battle, if you will, in convincing other, manufacturers to use it because, as you said before, it's low cost. It's a filler. It's like, no, it's not, but that's the perception, and so we have to get over that perception. And can we do that with education, like the black soldier fly? Perhaps, but that almost takes one pet owner at a time, to
Yeah.
convince them. But yeah, no, soy must be embraced. I mean, because it does represent an excellent nutritional ingredient for the dogs and cats, and as well with the concerns with sustainability now and production of more sustainable products for dogs and cats. We have regen ag programs where we are you know allotting certain fields of soybeans, that are going to meet sustainability goals. So we can even supply those if a customer has, you know, a, a corporate initiative, sustainability initiative or target that they need to hit, we can help them meet those through our regenerative ag programs. That's just soy. We have a lot of different ingredients that fall under the regen ag initiatives of ADM.
No, that's good to hear. And I think also a good takeaway is nutrition is cheap and can be sustainable. So
Yep.
you're hitting 3 points there, and some are very popular in the pet food industry now. So it's something to consider, not demonize any ingredient, but soy for sure, no.
Yeah, exactly.
So now I have two questions, not about soy, as I said before. And one is we talk about you being in the pet food industry for a few years now, and you've seen not only the growth and change of the industry itself, but you've seen a lot of different generations transitioning through the industry. So for this new generation that is entering the industry, why do you think they're bringing to the table and some challenges that they bring? And that comes to what advice do you bring? Do you have to new people or new young people joining the industry force, what they need to get more training or be more aware of?
Great question. I've had the opportunity, talk to class, basically companion animal nutrition, courses, the students in those courses, as well as some other opportunities. And one of the things that I always say to the students is know yourself. What is it that you want to do? What is it that drives you, makes you get out of bed in the morning? First and foremost, follow that. Assuming that it's the pet industry and helping and maintain, ensuring the health and wellness of dogs and cats. You can do that in many different ways. You can do it as a nutritionist, you can do it as a veterinarian, and so many of us in the pet industry, I think, started out as veterinarians, and then when our careers took us different paths. I know mine did. But again, it may be as a formulator, it could be in regulatory, production, sales. There's so many opportunities to be part of the pet industry, so the experiences they're bringing from their own lives are going to be key in helping to understand what today's pet owners are needing and looking for. But at the same time, there needs to be a willingness to see multiple, you know, um, opinions or approaches, when it comes, just as we've talked, we have a certain segment of pet owners that will not feed soy versus others that are actually seeking it. So it just doesn't matter. So I think these new I'm encouraged by the new people that are coming into the industry, and there's a I think there's a lot to learn. Sometimes we recreate the wheel sometimes, and it'd be nice if we could avoid that, but I think that's just sometimes inevitable, with time. But Yeah, it's a dynamic, growing industry. It's fun. It's exciting. It makes me get out of bed every day, and just find something that you enjoy and do it, and to make sure that you're you're well connected. Having a network is also very beneficial, and find a mentor, to help guide you in their career journey.
Yeah, on the mentor part, I totally agree, and the other ones as well. My last question is kind of related to your experience in the industry and as a person as well. You've seen a lot of successful people in your life, and you are one. You're very successful in the industry. What do you think some traits of successful people that you see that they kind of all have or have in different ways?
Many times it's an ability to relate to others, and to see things through their eyes or their experiences. And so if you can do that, and I know that's what I try to do, if I can do that and get on a common ground, with them, then the ability to influence goes a whole lot farther. And it's vice versa. They can influence me as well. So I think that's part of it. I think also it's having a drive or a determination to try to make a difference in a positive way, and it's to then be have the training and the personal characteristics that allow you to bring that training to life. And so I don't I like I said, I you know earned my PhD, but that was what I chose to do. It trained me. I loved it, and then was able to teach and educate students. And it was just that, seeing them learn nutritional principles that didn't make sense to them. All of a sudden, the light went on, off, and it's like, there it is. That's where, they get it now. And sure enough. And so for me, I feel like I want to believe that has made me successful as I try to help others understand complex issues, or, things nutritionally or otherwise, and seeing how they can apply, learnings for themselves in their own life.
Yeah, and I think putting yourself in others' shoes is something that many people forget nowadays or have been changing over the years. So it's a very important reminder for everyone that I think you are also successful when you help others. Is, as you said, is a chain of reaction that when you help someone, you create a connection and it always comes back to you for sure.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much, Gary, for joining us at Pet Food Science Podcast. I really enjoy our conversation, and also thank you for all your impact in the pet food industry over these years. You contributed a lot to our knowledge in so many topics, and thank you for still being here and impacting so much our pets and the people that are in the industry as well.
Thank you, and I thank you and Dr. Jewell and Dr. Shoveler for your efforts to bring to do these podcasts and to bring them to life. I know it takes time, to do that, but you guys are doing a great job, and just kudos and best wishes for the future ones to come. So thanks for allowing me to be a part of it.